The fluorescent lights of the downtown subway station flickered as Liam pushed through the evening crowd, his mind already on the quiet apartment waiting for him after a long shift. Then he heard it, a sharp cry of pain that cut through the din of rushing commuters. He turned toward the elevator bay and saw her, a woman with striking blonde hair, her arm caught between the closing steel doors, her face contorted in agony. Without thinking, Liam sprinted forward, his heart hammering as he wedged his fingers into the gap and pulled at the emergency release. The doors shuddered and began to open, and as he grasped her wrist to pull her free, something impossible happened. Her skin flickered beneath his touch, shifting from a normal human tone to something else entirely, a deep, luminous purple that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. The woman stumbled into his arms, gasping, and when she looked up at him, her eyes were pure silver, glowing faintly in the harsh station lighting. A strange humming sensation vibrated through his chest where their bodies touched, like standing too close to high-voltage power lines. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice carrying an odd melodic quality that didn't quite match human vocal patterns. She pulled back slightly, and Liam watched in amazement as her skin tone stabilized to something more human, though those extraordinary silver eyes remained unchanged. I need to sit down." He guided her to a nearby bench, his mind racing with questions, but his instincts telling him to stay calm. Her blonde hair caught the light as she settled onto the seat, and he noticed it had an almost liquid quality, each strand shimmering as though lit from within. "My name is Eris," she said quietly, studying his face with an intensity that made him feel utterly exposed. "And I need to tell you something that might frighten you. I'm not from Earth." Liam sat down beside her slowly, processing her words. Up close, he could see the faint purple undertones still visible beneath what he now understood was some kind of disguise. "The elevator," she continued, her breathing still labored. "Its electromagnetic field interfered with my molecular stabilizer. I've been living here, studying your people, but maintaining human appearance requires constant energy. The malfunction forced a partial shift. Most people would have run. Most people would have called security or screamed or assumed they were hallucinating. But Liam had always trusted his instincts about people, or apparently about beings, and something in Eris's silver eyes spoke of vulnerability rather than threat. "Are you hurt?" he asked simply. "Do you need medical attention? I mean, I don't know if human doctors could help, but—" Eris stared at him, and for a moment her carefully controlled expression cracked into something like wonder. "You're not afraid," she said, and it wasn't a question. "In all my months here, studying fear responses and threat reactions, I never imagined—" She trailed off, and the humming intensified slightly. "I need time to recover my energy. My systems are trying to repair the stabilizer, but I'm vulnerable right now. If the wrong people saw me like this—" Liam made a decision. "I live 3 blocks from here. It's not much, but you'd be safe there while you recover." He stood and offered his hand. Eris looked at it for a long moment, then placed her hand in his. Her skin was cooler than human temperature, and that strange vibration passed between them again, stronger this time. As she rose unsteadily, leaning against him for support, their eyes met once more. In that moment, something unspoken passed between them. Gratitude, curiosity, and the first spark of something neither of them could yet name. Liam's apartment was modest, a 1-bedroom on the 4th floor of an old building, furnished with mismatched furniture and shelves crammed with books. But it was private, and right now that was what mattered. He helped Eris inside and guided her to the worn leather couch, watching as she sank into it with visible relief. "Can I get you anything? Water?" he offered, already moving toward the kitchen. "No, thank you," her voice still carrying that musical undertone. "Our biology is different. I don't process liquids the same way humans do." As she spoke, the last remnants of her human disguise faded completely. Liam found himself staring, unable to help it. Her skin was a deep, rich purple, not the purple of bruises or artificial dye, but something luminous and alive, like the color of twilight itself made flesh. It contrasted strikingly with her blonde hair, which now shimmered openly with that inner light he'd glimpsed before. She was beautiful in a way that defied every human standard he knew, and yet somehow transcended them all. "I should explain," Eris said, folding her hands in her lap. Even that simple gesture seemed graceful in a way that was distinctly inhuman. "I'm a cultural anthropologist from the Celestian Collective, a federation of species from several star systems. I was assigned to Earth 6 months ago to study human social bonds and emotional expressions. Our people are logical, structured. We form connections based on compatibility algorithms and shared purpose. But humans," she paused, those silver eyes distant, "humans feel things so intensely. You form bonds for reasons that make no logical sense. You sacrifice for each other. You create art about pain and longing. It fascinates us, and frightens us a little, if I'm honest." Liam sat down in the armchair across from her, processing this information. 6 months she's been here, walking among them, watching them, studying them like specimens in a lab. It should have felt invasive, but the way she spoke about humanity, with such genuine wonder, made it feel more like admiration. "So what happens now, with your disguise not working?" Eris's expression grew troubled, and the humming sound that emanated from her body shifted to a lower, more anxious frequency. "I have 3 days before my extraction window, when my ship can safely retrieve me without being detected by Earth satellites. But there's a complication." She leaned forward slightly, and Liam caught her scent, something like ozone and honey, completely foreign yet not unpleasant. "My mission parameters required me to form what we call a trust bond with a native species member. It's a diplomatic protocol, proof that meaningful connection between our species is possible, that Earth should remain on the contact-approved list. But She hesitated, and for the first time she looked vulnerable. "I haven't formed one. I've observed, documented, analyzed, but I kept my distance. And now, if I return without that bond, the collective will classify Earth as non-contact worthy. Your world will be placed under indefinite quarantine." The weight of that statement hung in the air between them. Liam rubbed his face, trying to wrap his mind around the implications. "What exactly is a trust bond?" he asked carefully. Eris met him gaze directly. "It's a deep emotional and physical connection that proves two beings from different species can truly understand and care for one another. It requires vulnerability, shared experience, and—" She paused, and I could have sworn I saw color deepen slightly in her purple cheeks. "Physical contact. Our bioelectric fields must synchronize, which only happens through sustained proximity and genuine emotional investment. It's not something that can be faked or rushed. The bond either forms naturally, or it doesn't form at all." Silence stretched between them as they both absorbed the meaning of her words. Finally, Liam spoke, his voice quiet but steady. "I felt something when I touched you, in the station. That humming? It's still there, isn't it? I can feel it from here." Eris nodded slowly, her silver eyes widening slightly. "Yes, that's my bioelectric field. It responds to emotional states, mine and those of beings nearby. Around you, it's been unusually active." Liam stood and crossed to the couch, sitting down beside her with only a foot of space between them. His heart was racing, but not from fear. "I don't understand how any of this is possible. Aliens, bioelectric fields, diplomatic protocols, it's insane. But I can't deny what I felt when I helped you. I can't deny that looking at you now, even knowing what you are, I still feel—" I trailed off, searching for words. Eris turned toward him, and the humming intensified until he could feel it resonating in his bones. "I've studied human emotions for months. Love, attraction, desire, I've documented them all, but I never expected to feel them myself. My people don't work this way. We don't form connections this quickly, this irrationally. But from the moment you touched me, when you chose to help instead of flee—" She reached out slowly, giving him time to pull away. When he didn't, her purple fingers touched his hand, and the humming became almost musical. "This isn't part of the mission anymore, Liam. This is something I don't know how to classify." The next morning, Liam called in sick to work, something he never did, because the woman sleeping on his couch was an alien who might hold Earth's future in her hands, and also because he couldn't stop thinking about the way her silver eyes had looked at him the night before. Eris had finally succumbed to exhaustion around midnight, her body's repair systems requiring rest to fully restore the stabilizer. He'd covered her with a blanket, though he wasn't sure if she experienced temperature the way humans did, and had spent the next 3 hours lying awake in his bedroom, his mind spinning with impossible thoughts. When he emerged to check on her, she found her awake, sitting cross-legged on the couch with her hands pressed together in what looked like meditation. The purple of her skin seemed deeper in the morning light streaming through his windows, and her blonde hair cascaded over her shoulders like liquid gold. "Good morning," she said, opening her eyes. "I hope I didn't alarm you. I was performing a systems check. The stabilizer is functioning again, though I'm keeping..." The second day began with Eris teaching Liam the fundamentals of Celestine bonding practices, though she admitted with something close to shyness that she'd only studied them theoretically. She'd never formed such a bond herself. They sat facing each other on the couch, knees touching, hands clasped, while she explained how her bioelectric field worked. "Every living thing generates electromagnetic energy," she said, her silver eyes focused intently on his face. "But my people evolved to consciously control and share ours. It's how we communicate on the deepest level, below language." She placed his hand over her heart, or where he assumed her heart was, given the steady rhythm he could feel beneath her purple skin. "Right now, your neural patterns are creating resistance. It's natural, your brain is trying to protect itself from foreign signals. But if you relax, if you trust me completely, our fields will begin to synchronize." Liam closed his eyes and tried to let go of his instinctive barriers. At first, he felt nothing but that constant humming. Then, gradually, something shifted. Images flickered through his mind, not his memories, but hers. He saw Earth from orbit, a blue jewel against the black of space. He felt her overwhelming loneliness during those first weeks of observation, watching humans laugh and cry and connect while she remained forever separate. He experienced her fascination the first time she saw a mother comfort a crying child, her confusion at the concept of unconditional love. The connection broke suddenly as Eris gasped and pulled back, her breathing rapid. "You felt it," she said, wonder in her voice. "You actually accessed my memory patterns. That shouldn't be possible this quickly. You don't have our neural adaptations, but somehow..." She touched his face with trembling fingers, and he realized her hands were shaking. "Somehow you're adapting to me. The bond is forming faster than any documented case." Liam's mind was reeling from the intimacy of what he'd just experienced. It was beyond anything physical, beyond words. He'd been inside her consciousness, felt what she felt, saw through her eyes. "Can you feel my memories too?" he asked. Eris nodded slowly. "I felt your childhood loneliness, your parents working long hours, leaving you to raise yourself in many ways. I felt your kindness. It runs through every memory like a golden thread. And I felt..." She paused, her purple skin darkening in what he was learning to recognize as her version of a blush. "I felt how you see me, the way you find beauty in what I am, not despite my differences, but because of them." They spent the afternoon in quiet exploration of this new connection, learning the geography of each other's minds. Eris shared memories of her world, crystalline cities that sang in the wind, bioluminescent forests that pulsed with shared consciousness, vast libraries of knowledge stored in living neural networks. Liam shared his own memories in return, the first time he'd seen the ocean, the taste of his grandmother's apple pie, the feeling of losing himself in a good book. But they also shared the darker things, Eris's fear that she wasn't cut out for fieldwork, that she'd fail her mission and disgrace her family lineage of distinguished anthropologists. Liam's deep-seated belief that he wasn't interesting enough, wasn't enough of anything to hold someone's attention for long. As the sun set outside his window, painting the room in shades of orange and gold, they lay together on the couch, Eris's head on his chest, their legs tangled together. The physical closeness enhanced the mental connection until Liam could barely tell where his thoughts ended and hers began. "This is what humans mean by intimacy," Eris murmured, her cool fingers tracing patterns on his arm.
I read about it, tried to understand it clinically, but I never comprehended the vulnerability of it. Letting someone see all of you, the beautiful parts and the broken parts, and trusting they'll still want you. Liam ran his fingers through her blonde hair, marveling at its silky texture. Is this what a trust bond is supposed to feel like? Or is this something else? Eris shifted so she could look at him, propping herself up on one elbow. My instructors said trust bonds are cooperative, but ultimately professional, two beings forming a connection to prove species compatibility. But this... She placed her hand over his heart again, and he felt the humming intensify until it was almost painful in its intensity. This is what I think humans would call falling in love. My people don't fall. We choose, we decide, we optimize. But you've made me fall, Liam. You've made me understand why humans write poetry about it. He pulled her down to him, and their lips met for the first time. It was alien and familiar at all once. Her lips cooler than human temperature, the taste of her like mint and starlight. The humming became a crescendo, their bioelectric fields merging and pulsing in perfect synchronization. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Eris's eyes were glowing so brightly they illuminated the dim room. The bond is nearly complete, she whispered against his lips. One more night and we'll be fully synchronized. You'll be able to feel me no matter how far apart we are. Liam held her tighter, trying not to think about the inevitable separation looming over them. Stay tonight, he said. Not out here. Stay with me. Eris understood what he was offering, what he was asking. She nodded slowly, her purple hand finding his and lacing their fingers together. I want to know all of you, she said simply. Every human experience, every sensation. I want to understand intimacy, not as data, but as truth. They moved to his bedroom as darkness fell completely, their connection humming between them like a living thing. What passed between them that night was tender and exploratory, two beings from different worlds learning the language of touch and desire. Eris's purple skin was cool beneath his hands, but it warmed where they touched, as though her body was learning to mirror his. She gasped at sensations her people had never evolved to prioritize, her bioelectric field pulsing in waves that he could feel resonating through his entire body. And Liam discovered that intimacy with someone who could feel his emotions directly, who could sense every desire and fear, created a feedback loop of sensation and connection that transcended anything purely physical. They learned each other slowly, carefully, mapping the similarities and differences between their bodies with curious hands and whispered questions. And when they finally came together completely, their bioelectric fields synchronized in a blinding flash of sensation, Liam felt it, the trust bond snapping into place like a lock finding its key. Suddenly he could feel Eris's presence in his mind as clearly as his own thoughts, could sense her joy and wonder and fierce affection blazing like a star. And underlying it all, he felt her heart break, because the bond was complete, and that meant her mission was successful, and that meant tomorrow she would have to leave. They fell asleep tangled together, her purple skin stark against his sheets, her blonde hair spilled across his pillow. And in his dreams, Liam walked through those crystalline cities she'd shown him, hand in hand with the alien woman who had somehow become the most important person in his universe. When he woke in the early hours of the morning, he found Eris awake beside him, her silver eyes watching him in the darkness, glowing faintly with their own light. I can feel you, she whispered, her voice full of wonder. Inside me, your warmth, your steadiness. It's like you've become part of my operating system. Liam pulled her close, pressing his forehead to hers. I feel you too, he admitted. Your curiosity, your homesickness, your fear, and something else, something that feels like a goodbye. Eris's eyes shimmered with moisture, tears, he realized, which she'd told him her people normally didn't shed. My extraction window opens in 16 hours, and I don't know how to leave you. The final day felt suspended in amber, each moment precious and painful. They didn't leave the apartment, didn't answer Liam's phone when it rang, didn't acknowledge the outside world at all. Instead, they existed in their own small universe, learning to navigate the completed trust bond that now tied them together. Eris discovered she could sense Liam's emotions without touch now, could feel his sadness like a weight in her chest, his attempts at bravery like warmth in her core. And Liam found that he could feel her too, her presence a constant hum in the back of his mind, her emotions painting his own in shades he'd never experienced before. 16 hours isn't enough, he said, as they sat together at his small kitchen table, sharing breakfast. Coffee for him, a strange crystalline substance from her emergency supplies. I feel like I've known you forever, and yet I don't know nearly enough. Eris reached across the table and took his hand, her purple fingers intertwining with his. The bond means we'll never really be apart, she said, though her silver eyes were troubled. But I know that's small comfort when what we both want is this, sitting together, touching, breathing the same air. As the morning wore into afternoon, they talked about impossibilities. Could she stay? Eris explained that her extended absence would trigger search protocols, potentially exposing her presence and causing the exact diplomatic incident she'd been trying to avoid. Could he come with her? But Liam had no way to survive in the Celestine environment. The atmosphere composition alone would kill him within hours, and the journey between stars required stasis technologies humans hadn't developed. They were trapped by circumstances beyond their control, two beings from worlds that weren't ready to collide. There must be a way, Liam insisted, pacing his small living room while Eris watched from the couch, her expression heartbroken. The collective has the technology for first contact protocols, right? They could bring me, could adapt me somehow. The protocols take years, Eris interrupted gently. Medical adaptations, genetic modifications, psychological preparation. And even then, there's no guarantee your biology could handle the transition. I can't ask you to risk your life. I won't. Then we have these hours, Liam said, stopping his pacing to kneel before her. And we make them enough. Eris cupped his